We are live. Welcome to the Draft Nut Podcast, live on the Blue Chip Scouting YouTube channel. It's Jared Feinberg, Devin Jackson, and our special guest here this evening, Tyler Forness of the Blue Chip Scouting group, and what is it? Climb the Pocket, correct?
Climbing the Pocket and Voices of Wrestling.
Well, here's the thing with me on wrestling. I used to love it as a little kid, and then I just lost interest. As I grew older, not my style anymore. No,
I'm going to be honest, Jared. I don't blame you because mainstream wrestling for your entire life has been utter crap until about 2 years ago when AEW came into the fold.
I wish I was alive for the Attitude Era in WWE because that would have been an incredible time to be alive.
Mm-hmm. In real time, it was a lot of fun, but looking back on it, you're going to cancel about every other thing on that show.
Yeah. And today's age, cancel culture is going to have a blast with that. So,
yeah. But here's the interesting thing. Wrestling fans look at things from a different scope. We understand that in society and honestly in general, it's bad. But when I watch stuff like that,
it's all about family. Whatever Dom rides. I mean, I don't know. So let's just in general, guys, we're done with the Fast and Furious movies. Okay. Just we're not hating Tyler. I like them. The franchise needs to end. It has to end. We don't need a crossover with Fast and Furious and freaking dinosaurs. There needs to be a limit. Just saying. Okay, let's talk some football. I don't care what we talk about football wise. Whatever y'all want to talk about, Tyler, whatever is on your mind right now, what do you want to talk about? Just kind of go on over to other topics as we continue to talk. So what do you want to do, Tyler?
Kedon Slovis is Kirk Cousins.
I already knew that was going to be the first thing out of
Look, one of the things we always talk about is comps need to be natural. It needs to jump off the page at you when you make one. Because you can't just be like, oh, this guy's Lamar Jackson, or the one everybody used for every fast receiver ever, this guy's Tyreek Hill. The only time I felt like it was worthy of Tyreek Hill was Jalen Waddle because the play styles were so incredibly similar, as was the speed. Now, when I watched Kedon Slovis, I saw Kirk Cousins, a guy, and I think Kedon Slovis doesn't have the arm strength of Kirk Cousins, which is even more alarming because Cousins has above average arm strength. It's not great, but he can make all the throws, and he can make some wild ones at times. But I just didn't see a guy who I think is going to develop into a cornerstone franchise quarterback unless his shoulder all of a sudden miraculously heals and he gains a lot of arm strength. I know he was kind of dinged up a little bit. He got hurt in the Holiday Bowl in 2019, but he's an accurate passer, makes great quick reads, and his arms can't catch the checks that his reads right. And it's really tough because there were numerous times where he got bailed out by the fact he was playing against Pac-12 defenders or the defenders were just bad, where the throws shouldn't have been caught. They should have been intercepted easily. And I just was overall unimpressed with Slovis. I still had him as a third-round player because the accuracy and touch and placement were all really good. But I just was incredibly underwhelmed. And at the end of the year, I wouldn't be shocked if he falls even further down my rankings because I expect guys like Corral, who is lower than him right now, to rise up. Kind of taking a look at where I'm sitting right now. He is QB 6. And I've watched a total of, looks like 8. And I don't have Emory Jones ranked because I don't think I can actually give him a fair ranking. But I like Emory Jones more than I like Kedon Slovis. I don't like Slovis, his arm strength is going to be too much of a detriment for me to think he's going to be really successful in the NFL.
Could his sometimes and I'm not judging you, Tyler, but sometimes when I think of when people are criticizing arm strength, sometimes it comes down to whether or not your base and your feet are right. And sometimes when that happens, the ball looks like it's underthrown. But from what I have heard, Slovis has some pretty solid mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true from what you saw on tape?
I really didn't have a lot of issues with his mechanics. My issues were when he would throw out routes, the ball would just it would rainbow arc. Devin, being a Saints fan, you saw it over the course of Drew Brees' last 5 or 6 years. Those zip throws started to get a lot more rainbow-like. And then he was just slowly starting to lose that arm strength. I did not see enough zip coming from Kedon Slovis' throws. And a lot of those out routes were just and to me, that's scary. And a lot of those throws will be jumped by NFL defenders because they're going to have too much time. One thing that is helping compensate for that right now is the ability that he can make quick reads and get the ball out fast. But when you project to the next level and you're playing really, really, really good defenders, that's not going to matter as much because you're going to have to get some zip on the football. And if his shoulder can heal up well enough, if it is still hurt, where he gains some more arm strength, he might be fine. But right now, I don't see it.
One thing I've noticed with the quarterback class, and I've told this to Devin plenty of times, and I've told this on Twitter a lot, especially Panther fans that are already looking forward to this 2022 class because they hate Sam Darnold without seeing him play a snap with the Carolina Panthers. But anyways, the quarterback class looks like it has so much potential in terms of someone can come out of this class and be like the true top quarterback in this draft class, or we could have a couple guys like we have with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields last year. But Fields and Lawrence were on a different planet, it looked like, from last year. This year, if Rattler improves his decision-making, he will probably be on a tier of his own. If Matt Corral can stop being so reckless with the ball and be able to diagnose stuff pre-snap and post-snap, I think Corral could have a major rise this upcoming season. But this quarterback class for 2022, as long as some guys don't end up staying another year, it has the potential with progression from a bunch of these quarterbacks to be one of the deepest quarterback classes in a long time. Maybe it's a little bit of a stretch, I know, but just from what I've seen from the 4 quarterbacks I've watched, Malik Willis, Spencer Rattler, Sam Howell, and who's the other one? Matt Corral. The 4 quarterbacks I watched, I'm like, these 4 guys can easily be the top quarterbacks of next year's draft if they can continue to progress. There's going to be a varying of opinions about this quarterback class come springtime. So I'm very, very intrigued what the upcoming quarterback class will look like at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, even quarterbacks you didn't even mention, like Carson Strong. I know he has a lot of supporters already in the draft Twitter community. Someone that, kind of has that arm strength that we were alluding to that Kedon Slovis may not have. And, he throws the ball all over the field. He just needs some refinement in terms of his mechanics and footwork. There are times where he relies a lot on his arm. And I feel like that's true for a lot of quarterbacks in this class. They're so used to being able to throw any pass, any kind of direction, and just being able to complete it because they just have that superior athleticism or superior arm talent. But then, as they start playing better teams and teams start to get into some of their weaknesses, they kind of expose that. I mean, you look at Matt Corral. I mean, dude has arrogant arm strength. And I know something that you mentioned, Fornes, dude will throw anywhere. He has that gunslinger mentality. He'll throw it into a window that's smaller than a period. I mean, it is just insane how confident some of these quarterbacks are. You got Sam Howell, who probably is one of the better deep ball throwers in this class. He can throw it all over the yard, but he has issues with, kind of pocket management and bailing pockets when he doesn't need to, kind of very similar to Zach Wilson last year. So, you look at all these quarterbacks. I mean, even Malik Willis, he's not even close to anywhere near where his accuracy could be. I mean, he's throwing passes based off his strong arm alone. I mean, there are times where his feet look horrible, but because how athletically gifted he is, he can make throws, to the sideline, can make throws down the field. I mean, we all seen the clip of him rolling to the right and throwing off the wrong foot and still completing the pass. So you look at all these quarterbacks, they have, I wouldn't say a major flaw, but a very significant flaw where you're very hesitant to take them in the top 10, top 5 even. I mean, maybe you have one top 20 quarterback right now. I know that, there's several people out there. You got the Dane Bruglers of the world who think Sam Howell is the best quarterback right now. You got people that think Spencer Rattler is. You heard people from Carson Strong and kind of in that camp. I mean, you even had Desmond Ritter's name thrown in the mix, who's, I think, significantly, not even in the same level as some of those other guys I've mentioned yet. But he also has a pretty strong arm and some nice some nice arm talent as well. So I mean, you look at all these guys and it's like, it's exciting. They all pose exciting things in their game, but also it's, will any of them really develop into the people we think they will? I mean, we could go through the whole season and none of them really take that next step. And it's like, our team's going to reach on them then? Are you going to bet on Malik Willis to be, somewhat of a, not exactly Lamar Jackson, but somewhere in that level? Or are you going to bet on Sam Howell possibly being a lesser version of maybe Baker Mayfield? I mean, there's so many things that go into this quarterback class. I'm very intrigued to see how they all stack up.
One thing I have noticed from my summer evals, at the top of the class of like the 8 or 9 prospects I have really watched for summer scouting, the first few guys at the top are all defensive players. I think it's Kayvon Thibodeau, Kyle Hamilton, Andrew Booth, and Derek Stingley, all at the top. And then it's offensive players from the rest on. This looks like one of the deeper defensive classes in a while because you have a lot of good talent. I fell in love with Hamilton's tape. I was like, I could have stopped watching I could have finished my summer eval with just one game watched because Hamilton is explosive, physical, incredible range, freak athleticism for his size. He's like 6'3", 6'4", estimate of like 220 at least. Like, this is a big safety, and he moves so well and can play in a variety of roles. That gets me excited. I'm like, ooh, for a team in the top 10 that may need help defensively, this is going to be a good draft to improve your defense on.
No, 100%. One of the big things I've noticed with this quarterback class is nobody's great. And I have, there are some people that have thrown out first round grades for Malik Willis, Sam Howell, Spencer Rattler, probably even Carson Strong. Nobody's going to have a first round grade going into the year for me. And I think all of them have such big question marks. And there's like 12 guys. Who's going to be the guy? And I think this is another year where we could really see a Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow type riser. And I wrote a piece on it for Blue Chip Scouting, talking about what Emory Jones, his path could be like for that, because he only has 86 rushes and 92 pass attempts. We've never seen him truly run the offense, so we don't know what he's going to be. But he has all the talent in the world. I mean, you have guys like Corral who could really make that jump. There's just so many question marks with this class, and I would hesitate to put it in the same ballpark as you, Jared. One of the deepest classes in history. I mean, you're talking about last year.
I was saying more like if they were able to progress as quarterbacks, like they're able to take the next step.
I understand what you're saying there, but I think that even like maybe projecting that is too much because like we're talking like 83. There were 6 quarterbacks in round 1. 99, there were 5 taken in the top 12. Last year, there were 5 taken in the top 15, which is only the second time that that's ever happened. The first time was the aforementioned 99. Like and then 17 or what? No, sorry, 18. Baker, Josh Allen, Sam Darnold. Like, I'm not convinced any of these guys is going to be great yet. And I think when you talk about a lot of these teams that need quarterbacks, that's a problem right now. Like, if you are in a position like the Eagles, like, if Hurts isn't good, we'll just draft a quarterback. Who? There's nobody right now that you can take and feel comfortable that they're going to be your starting quarterback. And I think that right now, that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, you think about last summer, we came in, we knew Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence were the top guys. We knew they were going to be first rounders without question. And Trey Lance later in the summer kind of developed that kind of mantra as well as being the first round quarterbacks. I mean, we had 3 guys last year where most people thought they were going to go in the first round. Obviously, they ended up doing so this past spring. But now you're entering the summer here, and it's like you got a bunch of second and third round guys right now. You got a bunch of guys that if you took them today, you would have to sit them a year or 2 to develop, or you have to see some sort of significant development from them to be comfortable taking them and then playing them immediately. And I feel like we kind of gotten spoiled a little bit, especially with last year's class, because we knew that they were going to be the guys. Like they could start day 1, no question about it. And, they weren't even draft eligible yet. So now it's like we got a bunch of guys that maybe we're forcing the issue, because we're so used to quarterbacks going in the top 5, top 10. Some people are forcing the issue in terms of ranking them or putting them in the first round mocks. Like I see the vision. I see why they would do that. And history tells us that a quarterback or 2 will be taken that high. Just with the recent, kind of things have been going on in the NFL. You need a good quarterback. But this class, I would not, bet right now on any of them for sure starting in the NFL this time next year. So there's a lot of question marks around them. And like I said, we've gotten spoiled a little bit because we expect a bunch of quarterbacks to go in the first round every year. But this year, I don't know if that's going to happen.
This could either be 2018 or Geno Smith. Like that's the range, that's the variance. And that's really tough to project and understand, try and plan for the future for your team. If you don't have that guy or you need to replace that guy.
I'm more of an optimistic. I feel like this class, it's going to be in the range of maybe. Okay, so which class would probably be better, this class or 2019?
I don't know, man.
Right now, 2019 is better because it had Kyler. And then Daniel Jones is at the very least, he's serviceable. Dwayne Haskins is still a wild card. We don't know if he'll ever be anything. There's so many rumors that were coming out of Washington. I'm not expecting anything from him moving forward, but he's a wild card at this point. Like,
Did you see where someone said Haskins was going to be the next Brett Favre? I saw that somewhere. I was like, what in the world are we doing? Like,
no. I don't think people realize the only reason the Falcons traded him and they got a first round pick for him was because Favre had substance abuse issues for about 5 years. Like, he was popping Valiant. Like, we're not talking about a guy who's a good quarterback and then he ended up, getting traded because the team just drafted another guy. No, Favre is going to be the future and take over, but he had issues and Glanville wanted out and the Packers said sure, and they got a first round pick for him.
Yeah. I mean, based on your statement, Jared, I mean, the talent probably favors this class, but in terms of actual, like, I feel like the success of draft classes doesn't really necessarily depend on the talent, but more so, are they going to be starting within year 1 or year 2 of the NFL? And if you're taking a quarterback first round, you've got to plan on starting them within a year, at the very minimum. I mean, even then, that's kind of stretching it because a lot of them are starting them right off the bat. So, I mean, if you're taking them that high, I mean, you're expecting them to be an early contributor at some point, whether it's beginning of the season, middle of the season, at some point. So, I mean, looking at that class, I mean, Kyler Murray is the one that stands out. Daniel Jones still has a job a couple years later. So while he hasn't been great, I mean, he hasn't been completely god awful where the Giants feel like they need to get another quarterback. So, I mean, those two right there, I mean, it's not a lot to hang your hat on, but at the same time, I mean, I just don't know if you're giving the reins to Sam Howell, Spencer Rattler, Malik Willis, Matt Corral right now based on their previous years of tape. I mean, we've seen one good year from Rattler. I mean, and that was an up and down year. You look at Howell. I mean, he had a really good season, but there are some inconsistencies in this game. I mean, it's kind of picking hairs right now because it's like, you see what Kyler Murray has done. He played at MVP level like half of the season this past year before he tore up his shoulder. But, I mean, the guys available now, it's like, could they be that? I don't know. Murray kind of sets a high bar for being good in this class, right? Because we expect Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance to be really good, like, very soon. But this class, you don't know how good these guys are going to be early on.
It's a lot of projection right now. It's a lot of hoping these guys can take the next step this season in becoming good draft prospects to where you're going to have a lot of guys vying to be a first-round pick at that position. But again, if we don't see a lot of progression with this class except for a couple guys, then it's not going to be – it's probably going to be equal to the 2019 class where maybe Spencer Rattler ends up improving a great deal and he ends up being the guy of that draft class like Kyler Murray was, like him being the guy of the 2019 draft. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they progress, what this group will look like come the end of the season. I'm very intrigued what it will look like. One thing I want to discuss is I just lost it. I can't think of it anymore.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and step in then.
Appreciate it.
I'll go ahead and bring you in, Forno. Who has been an intriguing prospect non-quarterback that you may have watched so far this summer? I know you spent a lot of time on quarterbacks right now, so I don't know if you've taken a look at some other guys that, in this upcoming class that intrigues you outside of the quarterback position.
I'd say the one that really stands out to me, and I'm going to kind of stay local, Daniel Falele. I was really intrigued after watching his 2019 film, and then he obviously opted out for 2020. I believe he ended up going back to his homeland of Australia, and he comes back to camp, and he weighs 380 and not 400 pounds, and he was already moving really well at 400 pounds. Now he's got 20 pounds slimmer, should be a lot more quick with his feet, which is one of the issues that he had, just struggling to get out in front of edge rushers. Very excited to see what he can do. That Gophers offensive line is probably going to be the oldest in the country. They have, I think it's either 2 or 3 guys that are going to be 6th-year seniors, taking advantage of the COVID rule. And their 6th offensive lineman is Curtis Dunlap Jr. He's probably going to have a draftable grade come March and April. So that offensive line is very experienced. Falele coming back is going to be a huge benefit. Tanner Morgan not having his 2 starting tackles last year, along with an offensive coordinator change in COVID-19, really killed any kind of momentum that the Gophers could have had. And then Rashad Bateman also got devastated with COVID, and he's got asthma. So that was a really, really rough blow. That's one of the reasons why Bateman looked as slim as he did, because his body got ravaged a little bit. So when you kind of take all of those things under consideration, I'm really excited to see what Falele can do, especially because Mohamed Ibrahim is going to make him look good because he's a very, very good college running back. And that whole Gopher team, I'm just excited to see. Hopefully going to make a couple of games this year. We'll see how that goes. But that's the one guy that's really stood out as who I'm really excited to see just because there's no 2020 film of him.
Yeah. I mean, there's quite a few prospects that we got to kind of go off the 2019 film. But yeah, watching Minnesota that year, 2019, kind of closely, running behind them was something that they did a lot and had a lot of success with doing so. Falele, I mean, he moves people in the run game without a doubt. Obviously, the pass sets and kind of getting his feet quicker is something he needed to work on. I mean, playing at 400 pounds, I mean, it's going to be tough to move laterally, but, it's very good to hear that, he's back slimmer, looks a little better as well. But yeah, Minnesota, man, I was very disappointed in kind of their follow-up season after, bursting on the scene 2019, beat Penn State, thought they were going to, get the win against Wisconsin, weren't able to at the end of the season to go to the Big Ten championship game. But I mean, they've produced some ballers over the last couple of years. We know about Antoine Winfield Jr., Rashad Bateman, Tyler Johnson has looked a lot better in the pros than he did his senior year of college, which is a testament to him. Because I mean, the way he handled that pre-draft process was pretty bad, and really saw him fall. But he fell into the right situation. So I mean, then you look at Tanner Morgan. I know he was someone that. I believe you had that you thought was going to rise last year, but he just kind of fell, fell flat, with the limited offensive line. COVID really took a toll on that team in general. In general, the Big Ten West, I mean, Wisconsin was having issues, trying to play every game. Obviously Minnesota got hit with some COVID issues. So the Big Ten West had a rough go. For last season in terms of just playing games in general. I mean, outside of like maybe Iowa and Nebraska, everyone else missed a game or two because of COVID. But I'm very excited for Minnesota. Ibrahim is someone that I probably would have had a draftable grade on last year if he decided to declare because I think his vision is really, really good. He helped set up blockers really well too. Not exactly the most elusive or explosive guy, but a very serviceable, I think, rotating back at the next level.
He's a bowling ball.
Yeah. He bounces off of people. That duo of him, trio of him, Rodney Smith, and then there was another running back.
Shannon Brooks.
Yep, Shannon Brooks. They were something, man. I enjoyed watching them because they were like a three-headed monster. Ibrahim was probably the better back of the two, but the other two guys were seniors, so they kind of, let them play quite a bit as well. But Ibrahim's probably going to be the one that sticks around. But back to Falele, getting him slimmed down and getting his feet right, it's going to make them a lot better, along with Curtis Dunlap Jr., who flashed quite a bit while watching the film too.
I wanted to ask you, Forno, about Emory Jones real quick.
Mm-hmm.
From the limited snaps I have seen of Jones, just from watching him on TV, do you have any concerns about his arm talent? Is it really as good as people are saying it is?
Yes.
It is.
His raw arm talent is phenomenal. There was a throw he made against Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl where it was probably like a 35, 40-yard fly pattern, and just hit it right in between the two safeties. He's got a hose. He can whip it in there. He's flashed really good placement, and he's flashed touch. He just doesn't have enough of a sample size to really gauge what he's going to be on a consistent basis. How's he going to be when he gets hit like 10 times a game? Like, how's he going to be reading coverages consistently when teams are preparing for him and not Kyle Trask? Like, there's so many different elements that are just question marks. Like, I know Bossman, Tyler Browning, gave him a second-round grade. I think he has that kind of talent, but I can't put a number on it right now just because there's too many question marks and too little information out there to really grasp what he is. But I'll tell you this, they are going to use him like they used Tim Tebow. They're going to use him like they used Dak Prescott. And hearing those names and the fact that Dan Mullen coached both of those quarterbacks should excite you, one, as a football fan, and two, as a draft analyst, because Emory Jones is going to be given a lot of opportunities to flash what he can do, both with his arm and his legs. So get excited. Florida lost a lot of key contributors on the outside, but they are a low-key candidate for wide receiver U, because this year they're going to have 7 or 8 guys from that 2019 team catching footballs in the National Football League this year. That's a pretty impressive number. So there's a lot of talent still there. Jacob Copeland, Justin Shorter, Xavier Henderson, Trent Whittemore, who's going to be really good in the slot. Rick Wells has been there for seemingly 7 years, and he's a solid player. And then they have 2 5-star transfers in the backfield. One thing that Florida's done, they struggled to get those 5-star recruits. They've gotten 4 of them in the transfer portal the last couple of years. Brenton Cox, Justin Shorter, Lorenzo Lingard from Miami, and then DeMarcus Bowman from Clemson. Both those last 2 are going to be in the backfield. One running back to watch, Naquan Wright. He really flashed in limited snaps last year. I think Damian Pierce really took a lot of snaps last year, but I believe that Naquan Wright is going to be primed for a big season. Plus, Lingard and Bowman are going to get their touches. Florida, they're going to have a tough go. They do have Florida State again this year, which should be easy, but it's still a rivalry game. They got Alabama week 3. They're at LSU. They got Georgia and Jacksonville. It's something that is interesting. Florida has 3 national titles. All of them come in even years. LSU is an odd year away game. So something to keep in mind there. With the 12-team playoff, I would pencil Florida in easily. With a 14 playoff, they have to beat Bama. They have to beat Georgia. And
I think they can afford to lose one of those games, but it has to.
But then they have to beat LSU.
Yeah,
I feel like if you don't beat Bama in the swamp, it's going to be a struggle for you moving forward throughout the rest of the year.
And also, LSU should be a better team than last year because a lot of the guys are coming back. Keishawn Boutte has emerged as a top emerging weapon in the SEC. And it's going to be really interesting just to watch the SEC this year because you have quite a few teams, especially at the top. Bama, Georgia, Texas A&M, even Florida, I think all have a chance. Like they win a couple of the big games, like Florida beats Alabama and Georgia. They could be they could be in the college football playoff. Texas A&M beats Alabama. They could be in the college football playoff. Georgia has a great season and are able to beat the teams they're supposed to beat. They should be in the college football playoff if they can beat Alabama in the SEC championship. So I want to go into college football real quick and just off the top of our heads, who are the 4 playoff teams?
Okay, I'll start here. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma. You can tell me Georgia's got all these 5 stars all you want. Their head coach is still Kirby Smart.
That's fair.
I don't think Kirby Smart's a very good coach. He's a fantastic recruiter, but as a coach
and coordinator,
he's average. Yeah, he makes terrible picks at the quarterback position. Like he lost Justin Fields. Jamie Newman's probably better than JT Daniels on the college level. They basically just told him, I don't like you. Go away. Like, I don't trust Kirby Smart as a coach, but man, the man can recruit. Like Dan Mullen, I think is a top 5 coach in college football, but his recruiting has been a little stagnant. He can't quite get those 5 stars to commit right away, but he can get them in the transfer portal. So and then Oklahoma, I just think they're going to run through the Big 12. I don't think Texas is going to be back quite yet. Give it 2 years. Hopefully Sarkisian can do what Charlie Strong and Tom Herman couldn't. Ohio State is a juggernaut right now. And unless somebody decides to go in and ruin their day, I just don't think that there's a way that they're not going to get there.
My 4 teams will be bold. I think Oklahoma, Clemson, Ohio State, Texas A&M.
Why Texas A&M? I'm listening. One, I don't trust Jimbo Fisher. Two, who's playing quarterback?
That's the only concern I have. But the rest of the team is coming back. If the quarterback position can stay consistent, Devin, I know you're hating me for this. If the quarterback position can be consistent, I've heard some good things about the quarterback coming through. I don't remember his name, but if he can stay consistent, I think Texas A&M has a good shot at beating Alabama, and it will be at home. So, Oklahoma, basically the same reasons you brought up, Forno, and of course Clemson. Clemson's going to have DJ Uiagalelei. Most of their defense is coming back. Andrew Booth is going to be the star of that secondary, and Ohio State. I've heard a lot of great things about C.J. Stroud. And the rest of that offense. You got Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jeremy Ruckert at tight end. Most of that offensive line should be back, except for, of course, Davis and Myers. That defense looks like it's primed for a better season than a year ago. And Tyler brings up the quarterback for Texas A&M, Haynes King. So someone to keep an eye on for this upcoming season. But I feel like this is a year that Texas A&M, like when Jimbo Fisher came here, his goal was to get this team into the college football playoff. I think they have the best shot at doing so this year with a five-star quarterback in Haynes King. So that's definitely a team to keep an eye on. I think they definitely deserve college football playoff hype. But in the end, it will probably be the same old teams, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Oklahoma. Hopefully a Big 12 team can come in there and just surprise us all. But I wish the 12-team playoff was already here, so then we could be a lot more excited with more teams in the playoffs so we can discuss.
Yeah. Listen. I don't.
Here comes the burial.
Yeah, I don't hate the Texas A&M pick, but he just can't he can't win the big games, man. He can't beat Alabama. I mean, he hasn't beat Nick Saban, I don't think, in his career. And Nick Saban, he just owns his assistants, unfortunately. It's just the way it is.
He's never lost.
For me, it's like Texas A&M, they're getting a lot of good recruits. They're churning a lot of good recruiting classes. But to me, it comes down to coaching, and I just don't trust them to win the games they need to win. Like I'm certain that they're going to give Alabama a good game. I'm for sure they're going to give them a good game. But I worry about some of the other games that they play because they do play down to other teams' levels. I mean, look at last year's team. They played down to Vandy. I think they played down to a few other teams as well. They're not winning the games.
I'll say this. A lot of teams play down to Vandy. Vandy plays teams tough. So Vandy plays everyone tough. So I wouldn't hold that against Texas A&M.
That's fair. But, like the LSU game last year, they should have beat them soundly. LSU's defense was in shambles. Their offense didn't do anything the entire game, but they couldn't move the ball consistently. And it's a game at home, a game they should win probably by double digits soundly, but they let LSU hang around a good bit of that game. And I'm an LSU fan. I know they always play Texas A&M tough, but when you're playing a team in a down year, you gotta be able to build some confidence from that. And then, when they went to Alabama last year, I mean, they pretty much got blown off the field in the first half. So it's like, I get that they have that talent, that they have, kind of all the things in place, but it's like when it comes down to coaching, I just don't feel comfortable with Jimbo Fisher winning the big games he needs to win to get to where he needs to be. So that's my only gripe with that he just can't win the big games. He hasn't shown that he has. And with unknown at quarterback, I mean, I understand he's a 5-star, but I use Auburn for example. They have a 5-star quarterback right now, and they've been in the same place they've been the last 2 seasons. So it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be, take that next step in terms of being just a contender to actually being a championship level team. But I'll go ahead and get into my list. I think Alabama won. I think they're going to go through the regular season. I wouldn't say unchallenged, but I think the Florida game is going to be pivotal, obviously. And, obviously the LSU game is always something that they circle on their calendar. But looking at some of the teams that they play this year, and they're kind of reloading. I mean, they're not exactly there yet. Plus, Alabama does play Miami, I think, in the first couple weeks too. So that should be a game to watch. The Miami-Florida games, I think, in the first couple weeks are going to tell us a lot about Alabama, but I still think they're going to be in the playoff no matter what. I got Ohio State. I don't think anyone in the Big Ten is anywhere near their level yet. They continue to get in 5-star recruits. We just saw them get in a defensive lineman, I think, from Washington that was supposed to go to. Yeah, it's supposed to go to the Huskies. So that, I mean, they're winning out west, and if that's happening on a consistent basis, it's just continue to be scary for the other Big Ten teams. Yeah. So I got Ohio State at 2. 3, I got Clemson. I don't think anyone's going to challenge them in the ACC. But number 4, I'm going to say Florida makes the playoff because I don't trust the Big 12 and I don't trust Oklahoma to not lose a game in the Big 12. I think they have a really good team and they're always going to be the tops of the Big 12, but I'm a little worried about them. I think they have a solid defense. They got a lot of defensive stars coming back, but I'm worried about the offense because, I mean, they're going to be missing Creed Humphrey, number 1. I mean, you're going to have a new center starting. A little worried about that offensive line. I know they're a well-oiled machine offensively, but Rattler, he got a little banged around last year. Their offensive line wasn't as good as some of the previous years under Baker Mayfield, under Jalen Hurts, under Kyler Murray. So, and they're kind of reloading up front. So I'm worried about that. Whose weapons are going to be at receiver? I know they got Marvin Mims and a few other players, but they need other people to step up. And the running back position, I think it needs to see an upgrade in terms of their production. So I think Oklahoma trips up at some point during the season. Don't quote me on who. I think Iowa State is closing the door on them in terms of how good they are. But we'll see what happens. And we see Browning talking about Texas will be back.
I'm kind of with Boss Man on this. I think you give Texas some time to really do some good recruiting. I think Sark can be a really good coach at the Big 12.
I will say I pointed this out 10 minutes ago, but it's never been about recruiting with Texas. It's about developing. They haven't been able to develop any of their top recruits. Right. That's been the issue since Charlie Strong. So it'll be interesting.
Or could be different this time around. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see.
I'll believe it when I see it, and that's the approach I'm taking with it.
Yeah. Texas probably won't be back, though, for another 10 years. Maybe never. So,
I mean, they haven't been back since the 2009 national championship.
I'm probably getting fired for that, but
it's
been a good run, boys. It's been
Colt McCoy's shoulder injury was the last time that they were genuinely relevant in the national picture.
Yeah, it's 12 years ago. So
years already.
I mean, they've gone through multiple coaches now. I mean, listen. I like a lot of the Texas players. There's a couple guys like DeMarvion Overshown, who I really like at linebacker. And got some talented guys, but I don't know, man. There's just something missing with that team. They're just not there, man. I know they made it to the Sugar Bowl a couple years ago, but they're just not. They're not where they're supposed to be with how many resources they have, how many recruits they bring in every year. They should be a team that competes for national championships every year.
Yeah. Who wins the Heisman?
Malik Willis.
That's what I was going to say.
He's got the skill set. He's going to have the numbers. He's going to have more of a national profile because of what Liberty did last year. Hugh Freeze is their head coach, which is going to provide him opportunities to make spectacular plays. When you combine all of those things, it screams Malik Willis. But dark horses, we talked about Emory Jones from Florida. He's a dark horse because of that dual threat. Sam Howell, Spencer Rattler. I would not sleep on Jaden Daniels from Arizona State either. Pac-12 had a ravaged season last year, just like the Big Ten did. So those are some names that I would really keep an eye on.
Yeah, I got Malik Willis too. I just think he's going to have the numbers. I mean, he's such a special athlete that he's going to have probably over 1,000 yards rushing and probably 3,500 yards passing, just with his profile, how often the offense runs through him.
Those are Lamar Jackson numbers.
Exactly. So I think he has that. He has that type of profile. He's not exactly Lamar Jackson, but he has that profile. They run an offense that, sees him touch the ball a lot of read option, a lot of design quarterback runs. So they're going to have a couple games where they play on a national stage. They play at Syracuse on September 24th and then at Ole Miss on November 6th, which I think is going to be a potential fun game where 40-plus points are put on the board by each team. And that could decide the Heisman race essentially. If Matt Corral really takes that next step and really masters Lane Kiffin's offense and learns how to live to fight another day and not try to force things. But that game is going to be, I think, could determine the Heisman in terms of, for Malik Willis. If he shows out and balls on Ole Miss and finds a way to win against a team that has superior talent, I mean, that's what we look for in Heisman winners. I mean, we saw Lamar Jackson almost beat Clemson a couple years or back when he was in college, handily by himself almost. And he had that breakout performance against Florida State early in the season. So there are going to be chances for him to really shine. And for me, I just feel more comfortable with any other player right now with Malik Willis winning the Heisman at this time and moment.
I think y'all already know my answer since you guys know what my favorite college football team is. So,
man, a Phil Dracovic Heisman fan. I like it.
DJ Uiagalelei is the real deal, man. That is my pick. Unbiased or biased, that is my pick. DJ Uiagalelei, his talent, what he did in the 2 games he came in for Lawrence. He put up 400 yards in both of those games. He was phenomenal, to say the least. That offense did not skip a beat. It did not. I honestly don't know if Trevor Lawrence would have changed much if he was still playing in both those games. But DJ Uiagalelei has the chance to having one of the best seasons in Clemson football history because of the talent he possesses. He could be one of the best passers in the country and one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in college football. The dude looks like Cam Newton 2.0. And he might be better than what Cam Newton was coming out of Auburn. Like, that talent is insanely good. He's going to have some good weapons. I think that will be able to take the next step. Justin Ross is coming back. Joseph Nagata could emerge. Also, Frank Ladson. Brendan Galloway could be a nice security blanket for Uiagalelei. The running back position is a little bit of a question mark, but I believe they're going to go with a running back by committee until they find someone that can consistently produce week after week. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I think there's a good path for DJ to be in the Heisman race all throughout the entire season. It would not be surprising if he was at least one of the finalists for the Heisman Trophy. He should be in New York I think, by the end of the season. If not the favorite to win the trophy in New York. So DJ won. He will probably be my QB1 for 2022, or not 2022, 2023, just because of the raw talent he has. And, there were some freshman mistakes, they had, but I think those can easily be corrected. And he may be just as I'm reaching again, but I think DJ has a chance to being at the level that Lawrence was as a prospect.
That is quite the reach. But the thing I worry about is that the thing I worry about is that is he going to be able to be himself? Like, is he going to be constantly compared to Lawrence? Probably. So the thing I worry about is him trying to fill those expectations, one, and then two, I mean, it feels like Lawrence made things so effortless that it's kind of difficult to say, that DJ is going to be able to top that, and I know the talent is there and whatnot, but I just worry about, are voters going to keep in mind what Lawrence did and try to compare that, and kind of some of their biases. We'll get into that. And is DJ going to be able to play full games because of how Clemson is so much better than everyone in the ACC? Those are the two things that I worry about with trying to project him as a Heisman, is that, he's going to put up numbers, but is he going to play long enough in games to have the numbers that maybe a Malik Willis or Matt Corral or whoever emerges to play? That's what I kind of worry about, because the Heisman, it's not just about, kind of the talent you have. It's also about the numbers. It's about the moments you make, the kind of things you do at the end of games. And I just don't know how many games he's going to be playing into the fourth quarter because of how good Clemson is.
I think a better way of comparing DJ, like in terms of how special he could be, a respectful level for his play could be Deshaun Watson, just because of his dual threat ability, just because of how dangerous DJ can be with his legs in the two games we saw, and also just how good of a passer he showed to be as a freshman. Like, he was producing at a high level in the two games he played against Boston College and Notre Dame. If Lawrence had missed an entire month, I think DJ would have commanded that offense and ran it quite as smooth as Lawrence, because a lot of what Lawrence did is a lot of what DJ did as well. And that offense, I think, will fit a lot of what DJ likes to do. They like to run a lot of option stuff, a lot of RPO. And, Lawrence did fit that offense really well, even though it may have held him back quite a bit. It will probably be the same for DJ, but I think he'll be able to produce more on the ground just because of how mobile he is as a quarterback. Not saying that Trevor Lawrence wasn't a mobile quarterback, but I think DJ is definitely the much more mobile and better runner than Trevor Lawrence. Good? We're done? All righty. Guys, appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll be back next week. Love you guys. Peace.